do. I have a guest for you today. I've been hanging out on Instagram a lot more lately, as I've said on other shows and other guests as I introduce them to you. But Lacy is quite a find. I've been following her story for quite a while, and her Instagram handle is reclaiming_Lacy. Welcome to the show, Lacy Lovell. I'm so excited to have you here. Thanks for letting me slip into your DMs and coax you into doing the show and have you on television for the first time.
I'm so excited and I'm super honored.
Yes, this is going to be fun. So just a bit of backstory for our audience. You have an Instagram handle, whatever we call it, that you started after your divorce.
Yes.
As a way to start to rebuild your life, and you decided at some point to chronicle it. And I don't want to give too much away, so we're just going to start right there.
All right.
Let's go to the beginning. Thanks again for being here.
Yes, of course. Yeah, so I would say around the fall of 2019, my husband broke up with me. He, told me that he didn't love me anymore. And like many divorce stories, it's not black and white. I mean, it had been an unhealthy relationship. I wasn't aware of how unhealthy it was until about that day. But anyways.
That's a lot to learn in one day, right?
Yeah, it was overwhelming. And the aren't there like 5 stages of grief? My response was, I don't believe you, which is denial. And the divorce story, it just dragged on for a while. And so there were months of begging him to come to therapy with me and trying to work on things. And it was around sometime in the winter that he really was like, no, for real, like, I'm done. Yeah, so I filed for a divorce.
When you started the divorce process and you went through this and it took a long time, at what point did you think you could help other people, or was it more about trying to help yourself move forward, like to have accountability for yourself?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So I was in therapy. I've been in therapy for years. I'm a huge advocate for it. Mm-hmm. And when this huge upheaval in my life came, obviously therapy was something I relied on and leaned on greatly. And I've learned so much through different therapeutic practices, through talk therapy, and there's different things like EMDR and brain spotting and everything. And they've all just been incredibly helpful to me. And I feel like I've learned so much about myself, and I feel like I have come into myself in such an incredible way and part of the way that I personally process is through writing. And I'm a creative person. And so I felt like Instagram, with like writing captions and sharing pictures and stuff, felt like it just sort of fit for an expression that works for me. But also I've learned so much through this horrific process of the heartbreak of hearing that this person that promised that they'd love you forever doesn't love you anymore. And having to work through that. And I thought I had my life planned out, and I had to totally reorient.
You didn't really know who you were without him, right? I mean,
no, yeah. I mean, again, when I say like there was some unhealthiness that I wasn't fully aware of, enmeshment and codependence, right? Like I didn't know who I was without him, which is a huge problem, right? We don't want that in a marriage or any relationship, but it was the story for me. And so I kind of had to like cut that cord and figure out, okay, I'm alone. That means I need to figure out who I am. And I went down a really
and how I'm going to live, and all of the things, everything under that umbrella of what you thought your life would be is now recreated.
Yeah, and definitely.
So, were you a follower of Instagram then? Because I mean, there is an art to Instagram that people either have or they don't. Mm-hmm. And some people, well, I mean, there are some accounts that I follow that are just very they're almost too, like, I can't relate. They're too perfect. We know this, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then there are some that are more like yours that are so well done.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
that makes it kind of perfect, but it's all about the imperfections. So had you been following anyone on Instagram that inspired you? Were you already part of that space? Because you have to you're really good at it. So you have to build those skills.
Um, I went to school for graphic design. So as far as branding goes, I really had that unlocked. Like I understand what branding is and I know how to create a brand and maintain a brand. So on that end, like I got it. But I had a personal private Instagram account and I followed a handful of influencers that I just really enjoyed and really liked. And all of them are the type of people that are huge proponents for self-help, for mental health, for embracing messy. And I just never gravitated towards the types of influencers that took beautiful pictures of themselves in bikinis on the beach. Like
Right.
I was never following that anyway. So that's a side of the internet that I just did not engage with.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did this and I was going through the divorce and I was like, you know what, like I want to start a blog. I want to start a blog. I want to write. I want to talk about this experience because I started specifically this office. I started renovating this office and I was like,
yeah, that office.
there's some connections here between what I'm doing with this house and what I'm doing with my heart. And I think
You know what? That is really
cool.
true. That's very true. When I moved, they say my husband passed away in 2004, and they say you don't make any big decisions for a year. And I took my son on a 2-month trip about 2 months after his dad passed away, and we traveled from one end of the West Coast to the other, from the south to the north. Ended up in Washington. Drove into this valley one day that I had been to before, but had never quite seen it that way, and thought I have to live here, and bought a house 2 days later. And he didn't like color. He liked taupe and white, which we all like now. But I painted every room in the house a different color, nothing crazy, but there were just a couple of things that I thought, well, I can do it my way. And I made that house, it was therapy for me.
Mm-hmm.
To just create a space for my son and me that was beautiful and not empty and not sad, but still had his dad in it in every room.
That's beautiful.
And so when I see a story like yours, now I can't use tools like you can, but I'd like to learn. But when I see a story like yours, I think, you're a younger version of my story, and maybe it's different, we have different chapters in that book. Mm-hmm. But still just trying to carve it out.
Yeah.
Right? Just trying to carve it out.
Yeah. So I before I started my Instagram, I started painting these walls because this house has wood paneling everywhere. And when we bought it, it was not painted. It was like a 70s nightmare. And so I was like, I can't look at this room anymore. And so I started painting it.
So was that the house you bought with your husband, ex-husband?
Yes.
Okay.
So this is like a huge part of the story. I bought it with my husband and I built a life with him here. And I had visions of having babies with him here. And this room was going to be the nursery. Mm-hmm. But before kids were going to be part of the picture, this was his office. And when we bought it, it was a fixer-upper and I worked really hard to fix it up. And I left this room and I was like, this can be yours. This is your office. You do whatever you want with it. And he did nothing with it. So a big part of like looking back and discovering challenges and problems in the marriage, once like the Band-Aid was ripped off and I realized, oh my God, this is a gaping wound. Like, this is not good. I started understanding that there was a lot of emotional neglect happening. So through therapy, thank you, therapy, I started to realize that neglect is actually pretty insidious. And I think that it's super easy to explain away and be like, oh, he's tired, or you gaslight yourself and you're like, well, I am kind of a needy person, and you go through this process of telling yourself it's not that big of a deal. But for 5 years, having to have that conversation in your head hollows you out. You stop, it takes away some of your humanity, and it's horrible. And I started understanding that that's a really big thing that's been happening here, and it's not okay. So I filed for divorce. There's like, in the state of Tennessee, there's a 60-day holding period from the day you file and the day that it's like finalized. So in this 60-day waiting period where I can't do anything, and I'm not technically divorced, but I'm not married, I was just walking past this office that had been neglected, right? And I saw myself in this office and I was like, oh, it's so ugly. Like he didn't do anything with it. I gave him a whole room to do something with and he didn't touch it. He didn't look at it. He didn't. And I was like, that's me. And I just felt so mad. And I walked my butt over to Sherwin-Williams and I bought myself some paint and I started painting this room. And that is when everything clicked, because I was like, it's like I was physically wiping this paint on, and it's like I was erasing him from this house. I was erasing this like physical symbol of this horrible pain that I didn't realize I was enduring. And in doing that, I was taking my house back, and I was saying, this is a color he would have never signed off on, and I'm doing it because it's mine and I get to do whatever I want. And it was also an act of self-love, right? Taking care of the space where you live is a form of self-care. And so I'm taking care of myself, I'm taking care of my home, and oh my gosh, everything started clicking. And I just started, everything changed. That was the day everything changed.
That is incredible. Well, we've been showing pictures of your office, and let's take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, I want to dive a little bit into your renovation skills and how you can take an idea you see somewhere and create the space that you're sitting in right now. It's really incredible. It's quite a gift. Okay, we are talking with Lacy Lovell. If you want to follow her on Instagram, it's reclaiming_Lacy, LACY. We'll be back in just a moment. We are back. We've been talking with Lacy Lovell, and I highly recommend, if you're into rebuilding your life or rebuilding your home, that you follow her on Instagram, reclaiming_Lacy, LACY. Welcome back to the show. Thanks again for being here. I've been stalking you on Instagram for a little while, and we talked about in the first segment about going through your divorce and reclaiming your space and creating the office space that you have. I want to shed light on your renovation skills, like literal skills with tools and vision. I think sometimes the vision, people either have it or they don't, or they need to hire it, right? So it helps that you have the vision. Did you have the skills before this, or did you have to teach yourself as you went along?
It was about this time last year that I built my first thing ever.
Oh, and what?
I went to my friend's house who's a contractor, and I was like, can I borrow a nail gun? And I built a desk. So this is the desk I have now, but I built a desk that is no longer in here. Yeah, there's a huge influencer named Angela Rose. And around that time, she built her son a desk. And I was like, I can do that. I just painted my office walls and now I need a desk. Let's give it a whirl.
Okay, so we're showing pictures now of what you saw you wanted to create, and then you went to work creating it.
Yes.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed, stories are really something, right? I understand now the stories are kind of more like the day-to-day or a little more detail, and then the pictures are like the finish of whatever that is. It could be a kitchen, it could be building a desk. And so you did that, and your joy and sense of accomplishment. I mean, I think it's a lot of fun to follow you in those stories, because they seem like a little private room. Like I can send you a message, depending on how many followers you see it or you don't, but I'm cheering you on. And so what are some of the other big projects that you've had that seemed daunting, but you got them done?
Yeah. So I did a little built-in unit in my closet, and in my mind, I knew how it worked. I could figure it out. It's sort of like Lego pieces. Like I cut the wood this size, and I put them together, and it's okay. And so I was like, I can do this. That's so easy. I could totally do this. And I started building like a built-in unit with drawers on the bottom, shelves on the top. I had no idea how intense doing something like that was. And at the time, I didn't even own a table saw. So I was cutting all my big pieces of wood with a circular saw, which is not great if you want 90-degree angles. And I just like really, really winged it. And I pulled it off, but just by like the hair on my chinny chin chin.
Well, the shelf behind you, I felt for you that day when you couldn't find the shelf you wanted.
Yes.
And I mean, I am like you. I try to go buy something locally first, and then if I can't find it, I'm gonna order it from Amazon. I just am. And then you can't, then you have your mind on something. So Amazon is no longer next day or 2 days for real. It's more like 3.
Yeah.
And so you rigged that up pretty good.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Instagram, I had told all my followers that I was going to have a reveal for them the next day. And I was like, well, I can't get Amazon to bring me a shelf tomorrow. So
Dang it.
I was like, I either need to buy this thing or I need to make it. And I went to 5 different places and no one had what I was looking for. So I was like, okay, here we go. And I figured it out. I'm actually really impressed with myself. I did it.
And how done are you with the space? I mean, are you ever really done? But like, there's some rooms that just still need top to bottom work. How far along are you on in the process of making the house how you want it?
Oh, I don't even know. I guess, man, I'm not sure how to answer that. I probably am only 50% done, whatever that means. And by the time I hit whatever done is, I'm going to have so many other ideas about what I want. So
you'll circle back. That's what happens with me is I've found in my adult life, I've lived in each house I've owned about 8 years. And lo and behold, around the 8-year mark in this house, I wanted to go buy a lot and build. I've always wanted to build a house. I haven't, but I love my house. And so I kind of was really on the fence about it for about a year. And now I've decided to stay here and grow old here. Probably might want to downsize, who knows? But anyway, it's becoming like this place is going to remain. And I could knock out a wall to extend the kitchen, do these things. I found out that wall's not weight bearing. But around the 8-year mark, I get it itchy. And I paint every room in my house myself, except the entry because it has the high, the upstairs. I wasn't going to get on a scaffold. But so do you find that when you look at a room, it's done? When you feel it's done, it's done? Like your office, the space you love, do you go, okay, whew, done? No,
this space is not even close to being done. There's a little couch right here. My dog is asleep on it.
Oh, yes.
It is my grandmother's old couch and it needs to be reupholstered, but I can't for the life of me figure out what fabric I want. And so I've got a drop cloth over it, like these little details that like definitely need to be done for me to call the room done. I just need to make up my mind. And, I don't have any furniture over on this side. If I were to show it to you, it's just like nothing. So definitely not done with this room. I'd say there's only one room that like you might be able to consider done. And even it was the first like big 1-room flip that I did for Instagram.
Which room was it?
It's the guest room.
Okay.
So
isn't that funny that the room we do first is the room that other people are going to sleep in?
Yes. I don't know if it's a combo of like me thinking like maybe even to a fault thinking of others before myself, or if it's messed up, then I don't have to live in here. I don't know which one it is. Maybe a little bit of both. But I did that room and I did it. I would just started out with Instagram and I was like, let's do this big thing. And I did it. And now it's been, I guess we're coming up on a year and a few months. And I'm not sure it's super close to my style anymore. And I just kind of want to change it, so I kind of feel like it's going to be an ever evolving space, right? Because I'm always going to be changing and growing and my style's going to evolve as the years go on. And I
look at the bedroom now and the walls are like a mustard color, which when I moved in here was great. And now I would prefer it to be more of a white or something. However, I think just by changing my bedding and the pillows and some other things, I could lighten it up and not have to do a whole, because painting the room, it's an overwhelm. I mean, so when I've painted my downstairs family room and living room, when I moved in here, I painted it, the whole thing like this, it turned out more like a Nautica blue, which I wanted more of a blue brown.
Ooh, okay.
I did it all over again. And I did it with a custom paint that I had the mix because I already bought all this blue. So then last year, during this last year, I wanted to paint everything white painted the whole thing, took 2 coats, and it had a blue tint. I hadn't even looked on the back of the card to know that it had a blue tint. So I had to paint all over again, a 3rd coat. And I'm 10 years older than I was, 8 years older. And I got up and down the ladder fine and everything. I mean, I'm only going to be 50, but I just thought every room in the house, I don't know. I might just buy pillows and bedding and call it. Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, I want to introduce the person that's going to be joining your home, this beautiful space you've created. We'll be back in just a moment. We're back. We've been talking with Lacy Lovell. If you want to follow her on Instagram, it's reclaiming_Lacy, Lacy. Real quick, I wanted to share with the audience, you have a friend that's been a friend a long time, and now he is more than your friend. So here comes Jesse, your life, and you met it through work?
Yes. We were friends for about 3 years, and then, you know, one thing led to another, and here we are.
Well, one of the things that I like, I'm an observer of your account, as we've shared throughout the show, or as I've shared, and Reclaiming Lacy is really about your metamorphosis, how you've healed yourself through the renovation of your home. And I see, as an outsider looking in, I don't know you well, but I see Jesse as like this addition to your life that you've already rebuilt. Not so much like this happy ending. Now you're healed because you have this man.
100%.
No offense, Jesse, but right? I think so.
I hope that I am the same in his life. I hope that I am a wonderful bonus to his already full and whole life. I do not want to be his better half.
Yes.
I want him to be a whole person on his own. I am a whole person on my own. That being said, I love him very much, and I'm so happy with him. And so I went on this big journey of reclaiming my home and reclaiming my life and figuring out who I am, me, all by myself. And along that way, I started dating this guy, and one thing led to another, and now I'm in love with him. And it's been, I don't know, we decided that it was time for us to take the next step, and he's gonna move in, which is a big deal. And it was a huge decision because I went on a pretty intense therapeutic process of making the space all mine. Right. Like I used to share it with someone. Now it's all mine. And now I'm sitting here going, am I seriously going to do this again? Am I going to share this space with somebody?
I can relate to that. I think many people can relate to that.
Yeah.
It has to be. My friend always told me when I was going through date, you know, I didn't expect to date, you know, in my early 30s or again in my 40s. I had a long-term relationship in between. But my friend always said, it's got to be better than being alone. And then that used to work, but it's like being alone was pretty good. So
yeah,
then I got what she meant, like, don't give it up. You know, it's got to be better than whatever. It's got to make your life better. Not. Yeah. But yet again, I've felt at different points in my life is pretty good just like it is.
Yeah, right? I think there's room for both.
Yep,
I think there's room for both. And I think that has a lot to do with two individual people coming together and being in a relationship.
For sure.
You know, that I'm happy alone, and he is a giant, wonderful bonus in my life. And relationships are hard, and sometimes it's hard, and that's okay. That's just the truth of the matter. But anyways,
I in the office with you.
I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. So the reason I don't have that desk that I built last year is because I had to break it down in order to build a desk that fits the two of us.
Well, I wish you guys the best. I'm super excited to keep following you. I've been, like I said, paying attention, and I'm going to learn some tricks from you, and I'm going to get myself some tools, and I'm going to try some of the things that you've accomplished. So thanks for the inspiration.
You can do it.
All right. Anyone who wants to follow, it's reclaiming_Lacy, Lacy. Thanks again.